Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out Tsunami Cruiser by developer Tomatic Lounge with music by Bitburner. This is a very simple game with a very simple premise. As you can probably see here, it's flashing up some little bulletin points here. Destroy everything, survive, rule the waves. That is, basically what we're going to be trying to go for here. It's a side-scrolling dual-stick shooter, kind of in the same genre as Geometry Wars, and very much in your face and bold. And I should warn you, of course, there will be some flashing lights and colors here, so if you have any issues with epilepsy or photosensitivity, maybe look away, but I always put a tag for that in the description before we get started. So let's look at the credits very briefly. There are the people responsible, and there's our options menu. Not a whole lot to see here, unfortunately. Sound enabled, music enabled. Fair enough. We want those things. So we'll start at level 1, and let's get going. So we're going to be piloting our little ship here, trying to stay afloat, trying to blow up everything that's trying to get us. And I have the option here of using my controller or keyboard and mouse, and I've tried both. I like them both. Both control schemes work just fine, but I tend to opt toward the general direction of dual stick whenever possible, especially because I have so much experience playing this type of game. It just feels pretty natural. And I think also the graphic style really kind of complements that same sort of genre. It seems to be sort of like a genre convention. If you're going to do a dual stick shooter, have things be really bombastic and bright and colorful and kind of crazy and over the top. And it kind of works. I don't know, something about it, it harkens back to that retro style. Might also be those airplanes. They kind of remind me a lot of, like, I think it was like Shooting Gallery or something on Atari 2600. They had a very similar style to them back then. But each wave that we go through of the enemies, they're going to introduce a new type of challenge to you. At the beginning, it's pretty simple stuff. We've got some jellyfish, we've got some regular fish, we've got some airplanes that drop mines. The mines float on top of the water. But yeah, nothing too crazy at the moment. Things will get a little bit more chaotic, and actually by about the 5th or 6th, or maybe closer to the 8th, somewhere in there wave, things started to get so chaotic I was actually having trouble keep up, which is, where you want to be, considering there are many waves beyond that, and I have 4 lives to spare, so there's not a high likelihood of me running out at this point anyway. I start out with 4 lives. I do get extras every so often. I'm not sure what the increment is quite yet. It's probably like 1,000, or maybe it goes up every time, sort of like Geometry Wars. But unlike Geometry Wars, you don't actually have any kind of screen-clearing smart bomb or anything as far as I can see. I have tried all the buttons, and the README didn't mention anything like that. But, probably not necessary. We've got our missiles, and they kind of do the job. Another area, though, where this sort of differentiates itself is in that in Geometry Wars, if you remember, the weapons kind of upgraded and changed every so often. In this one, as far as I know, you pretty much just get your missiles ad infinitum. That's kind of it. So we've got ships now shooting missiles at me in retaliation, so I should probably be aware of that. We can also try and bombard the enemies by just kind of shooting missiles up into the air and hoping for the best. Surprisingly, that actually pays off more times than you might expect, especially if you're starting to feel overwhelmed. It might actually be a good strategy, just toss a bunch of missiles up in the air and see what happens. As long as you're, if you weren't going to be able to focus on something anyway, you might as well get those shots up there and just maybe something will pay off. So yeah, that strategy seems to be working so far. We're up to 5 lives. We've cleared level 4. So far, no major challenges. But let's see what kind of new enemies they have in store for us. I have seen some screenshots later on. Things do get a little bit more on the chaotic side even than they, what I've even hinted at. I think there's like some crazy stuff that's going to open up under the water. And I'm kind of tempted to just skip ahead and see where we go with the enemies later on. One other thing I'm thinking about, as I'm playing this, I'm enjoying the graphics. It very much feels cohesive. It feels right. I don't feel like I have a lot of opportunities to dodge, though. If I find myself cornered and something's coming right at me, it's kind of like you're just kind of trapped. Like, a lot of the time you'll find your missiles don't seem to go through the water at certain angles and will, hit into the top of the water, sort of like what just happened there. And there isn't like a dodge roll or anything, which, obviously doesn't make a lot of sense for a ship anyway. But maybe if there was just like a little... And I know this doesn't really make sense either, but, neither does the whole shooting 10,000 missile things. Maybe if there was just a little, thruster that you could engage, once every so often to just do a little bunny hop over something that's approaching you, that might come in handy. Again, though, you're kind of just stuck on the line for the moment, so, just try not to let yourself get set up, I guess, is the best advice I could really give for the beginning. We're still kicking along. Things are going fairly well. And I'm appreciating also the fact that they chose to make it like all of these bubbles shooting up from underneath. It's a little detail that doesn't seem like it would be all that relevant. I mean, obviously water, but it seems like it hints at like a much higher level of granularity for the detail in the game. And there is my first death on that crazy starfish thing. Is going to be breaking apart into multiple. But yeah, there's a lot of little detail that you might not even notice at first, just between those bubbles, the little contrails on the rockets, the very flourished-looking explosions that come out of all the enemies, as well as the bubbles that will erupt from the surface when things like the fish will pop by. And when you have such minimalistic graphics, those details can actually go a pretty long way, especially when you're kind of putting all your emphasis on just bright colors and then shapes. Like, it doesn't take very much to read the enemies, and I think that's something that Geometry Wars did really well, and this game does as well. If you see something that's a bright color, you're going to associate it with a certain shape. There are plenty of other bright colors, of course, as well, but they tend to differentiate themselves well enough that you don't ever seem to get them confused. And that's something that I talk about a lot with first person, no, I'm talking about platformers more than anything. Where you've got a foreground and a background, and you kind of have a hard time sometimes telling the difference between the two. In this one, that's kind of not even a factor, because you've really just got one solid backdrop and one singular line that you even need to pay any attention to, and that's just the waves that you're going to be motoring up and down. The controls are actually pretty responsive as well. Like, your boat moves right when you move it. It's not like there's any delay. It moves sort of like if it was a car or something that could instantly go left and right. You know, obviously boats tend not to be able to move on a dime like that, but since we're going to the hyperbolic realm of bizarre neon-fueled madness, that doesn't really seem all that out of place, does it? Oh, so I guess I cleared level 9, even though I thought I just died at the end there. Oh my goodness, we've got spaceships that take multiple shots now, so I'll try and prioritize those, I guess. Do they even attack, or are they just, they're gonna, oh yeah, they do. Okay, so that would be a problem. Once the electrical bolts get involved, I guess you're kind of just out of luck if you're in the corner there, so probably try and avoid being in the corner. So I guess what happens when you lose a life, it sort of clears the board out, and, oh, I didn't even see that that got me. But yeah, it clears the board out, and I guess that's how I was able to finish that wave, since whatever was on the screen ended up getting destroyed. I guess it just sort of counted that I finished, so, you know, I guess that's one way you can get a little bit of incremental progress, even though you lost anyway. And now I'm just losing lives like crazy here on, what was this, wave 11, I think it was. So I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful and try and take out these UFOs before they get angry. Fish are showing up. We've got planes, we've got UFOs, and I just crashed into something. See, now I'm starting to prioritize shooting the UFOs so much that I'm forgetting about the other stuff going on under the ocean. And I've still got quite a few more waves left to go, so it looks like maybe I'm not going to have a perfect run here on my first try, which is, you know, good. You don't want to win the game on your first try, I would think. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the polish of this game. It seems really well done. Seems like the type of thing that if they wanted to push further, I don't really know exactly what they would need to add other than like leaderboards and maybe some power-ups or something, but I could easily see this being like a fun little bite-sized, like 99-cent Steam game or something like that, or even could go to like mobile devices. I think would probably work fairly well as well. Technically, when you're using mouse and keyboard, you don't really even need to use any kind of shoot button. It just kind of happens automatically, so, you know, if that's going on with touch, really all you got to do is just drive left and right, and then have a another finger set up somewhere on the screen to point, so kind of takes care of the rest for you. Anyway, that's going to be it for Tsunami Cruiser. Definitely well produced. Definitely going to recommend you give this one a shot if you want to. There will be a link, of course, for you right in the description, as always. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, as with every episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure you do leave a like. It does help me out a whole bunch and keeps the series going with some positive momentum. So I will be back again tomorrow. New episodes of Indie Impressions go up every single day. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you back for another one then. So have a fantastic night, everybody. I'll talk to you later.